One aspect I wanted to actually ask you about, like one of the final topics here, is the coaching angle, because there's another area where at the moment, while like for a coach, it seems like it's very different. A lot of coaches potentially, if they get the big money offer, will go for it. Like, I mean, they don't know how long their careers are. It's still not that established a position yet where, I mean, it's hard to show how good you are as a coach if the team does badly, for example. You're not like a player. Your life isn't in your own hands in the same way. Now, NA has imported a lot of coaches, in fact, a lot of Korean coaches even. But that's one area where it's obviously a lot trickier to get the coaching staff right, because one of the issues I think people ran into is, I know some of the Korean coaches that came to NA and didn't necessarily win were good coaches. Like, they were good in Korea. That's the reason people signed them. It's just that, like, you know, for example, they had massive culture clashes, or they just imagined it was going to be different, or for example, like the best example is they come in and maybe their team has no Korean players, and so they don't even get to sort of flex the little edge they would have. Like, you've obviously both worked with Korean coaches. You've had success with them. Is there an angle on the coaching angle that hasn't been expanded enough? Like, do we need, for example, it to be like an NFL team where now you have like 5 different coaches, and there's a coach for top laners, there's a coach for the scrims only, and there's a coach who only does draft? Should we expand out? How do we attack the coaching angle to potentially make NA better?
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
I think one of the things to think about is like, I will take as many coaches as I can as long as they're good, but the actual number of good coaches is quite small. And generally, from what I'm hearing from players now is that, like, oh hey, this coach was just in the room, actually wasn't contributing at all. He was actually worthless. So I've tended to actually focus on coaches that are actually bringing a lot of value. And when you start churning the numbers, there aren't a lot of coaches that are actually good at providing value to these players. Generally, the players are the smartest people in the room as to how to play the game. And the game is still relatively young, and so there's just not a lot of really great coaches yet at this point. But that said, like, I have been spending a lot of time trying to find position coaches because I do think it's really valuable if you can find the right people. And the best example for that was really what I saw with Fudge and Licorice. But it took someone of Licorice's caliber to really help Fudge accelerate his winning.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of different competencies within coaching. You know, there's motivation and the psychology of it. There's the band pick element and preparation and execution on stage. There's the teaching that happens respective to a specific role, or the macro of team play at different phases of the game. There's mastery of champion versus just playing a champion well. Like, so we use the coaching kind of to mean a lot of different things. And what we've realized is it's impossible for one individual to embody all of these things that are necessary for it to happen. So to use I think you use NFL as an example, where you have positional coaches, offensive, defensive, you know, and different groups, the answer is yes. You know, an organization that's able to adopt the right coach for that discipline to teach that concept and do it well is going to help a player, the team, you know, a certain aspect of the game. But to Jack's point, it is hard to find those individuals because, you know, you try to test for it, you know, interview, you know, we've had as an organization had a hard time finding stickiness with, you know, competency in these different areas. And so part of it is about, you know, putting the coaching pieces together where they have a specialization, they know their role and responsibility, and how that creates the whole coaching staff, right? And each coaching staff is different based on the unique strengths and weaknesses of one of its members, just like a member of a team of players. So that's how we think about it. And like Jack, we're ready to hire way more coaches, but we go through a lot of interviews and cover letters and applications, and unfortunately there's not too many, you know. It's like it's not a good pool. So then you go and you look at like retired players, or, you know, and then some of them don't have like maybe the professional management, or, you know, that whatever it might be, but it just means that there's a low talent pool on the coaching side in any of the respective facets.
It's super interesting when you take a player and you develop them to be a coach. I've done it a few times now, and you actually need to change their mindset because like the as a coach, they have to be an example for how they expect all of their players to behave. And it doesn't come naturally to a player to realize that, like, yeah, they need to be making sure that, like, you know, that their attitude is correct, that they're coming with the right passion every single day. They don't realize that every single player on that team is going to look for them to be failing somewhere. And if they fail, then the players will think it's okay to fail there as well.
Yes.
And it's taken time for me when I bring on a new a new coach that's been a player for to say, hey, your player days are over, dude. You have to step into the room and represent what you want your players to be every single day. Because if you fail, if you go out drinking like before a game, if you don't put in a maximum effort in this workout, if you're like fucking around too much, you instantly lose all the respect of all those players. And once you lose that respect, they just won't listen to you, no matter how good the information that you have. And so it's been an interesting process, like developing, these new young coaches. And I've had some success and many failures, unfortunately.